Hi, this is the Pickles Picks podcast with Necromedes the Thrice-Reborn and Pickles the Demon Unicorn.
You are not a demon.
You're
not even close to a demon.
But
my failure in summoning the evil demon Cool has brought me nothing but shame.
I was summoned. I'm a demon. End of story. We're brought to you by Epic Fantasy Novels on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. We're covering Dune. This is episode 5. Timestamp 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 30 seconds on the audible recording of Dune.
We're doing both chapter 5 and 6 for this one.
Right, but this is episode 5 of our show.
I'm naming it 5 and 6.
Okay. So, in this episode, it starts out talking about how Dr. Yue has Imperial...
Yui. Like the helicopter.
Is there a helicopter called a Yui?
Yes, there is.
Okay. You are smart in helicopters, not me. Because I'm just a unicorn. So, it talks about how his Imperial conditioning has failed. His protocols have been breached. And
the Imperial conditioning.
And he talks about a betrayal to his Bene Gesserit wife. Wana. So this episode starts out with Paul in a training room being massaged. Yui calls in, and he says there's no time for regular lessons today, and his father is coming. Paul hasn't seen much of his father lately, and Yui has already decided to betray everybody. We never find out exactly how this happens.
Well, not yet, at least.
No, at least not yet. All we know is that Dr. Yui has been put in a position that he hates. He hates himself. He hates the position. It's not like he's doing this of his free will. And it all has to do with something the Harkonnens are doing with his wife, or did with his wife, because he does say that his wife is passed on.
Which is kind of weird. Is she dead, or is she possibly alive?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, he says dead wife out loud. But whether or not that's actually, true, or if he knows one way or the other, I think is kind of up in the air.
Certainly, I don't think the Atreides would know the Harkonnens would have captured her. Otherwise, they would be more suspicious of them.
Right. And also, they'd probably be doing something active to get her back.
One would think. I'd like to point out this is the second time someone has betrayed an organization due to their spouse.
Right.
So that's kind of the theme they're building up. With Paul's birth as a male being the first one.
Right.
Jessica betraying it for Duke Leto.
Right, definitely. After this little section about Yui and what's going on with him, Paul asks Yui about the Fremen and the others. They're called the Graben, the Pan, and the Sink. The Pan and the Sink like to intermingle with the Fremen, but we don't really know a whole lot about the Graben. Graben? Is that the way you say that?
I'm not sure. It's not something that I really get much into.
Mr. Necromedes?
I don't think so. Well, pretty much it's all Freeman from now on.
Okay. And the reason that they do the intermingling between the peoples is because they believe they get polish from cities and the wisdom from the desert. The Fremen are on the outskirts of the desert. Their eyes are blue from exposure to
the spice melange.
To the spice melange. And the Fremen are warriors, even down to their children. And Dr. Yui makes note of telling Paul that he will probably not be allowed to intermingle with any of their children.
Well, any of them, period, not just their children.
Well, yeah, any of them, period. But he said even, he even wouldn't be able to play with their children.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we get our first mention of sandworms. And since they are demony, I'm going to let Necromedes tell us about the sandworms.
Well, what we've been told is that there are danger, and that's why there's there's giant storms and there's sandworms out in the desert. So only a very small portion of the whole world is occupied. And it's very, very expensive to make any other part of the world human occupied. So they live in this tiny little area with this Graben and the other people natives living near it, near the cities. Then outside in the vast deserts are the freemen. So we don't know what the worms are for or what they're doing, but we'll find out later.
Well, also, the worms aren't just regular worms. They're completely enormous. Even the smallest one is supposed to be, 144 meters long?
Yep, and and also their origins are mysterious. He wants to talk to kinds to see how they were created, because I don't think they were created by normal biological processes.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like an anomaly in the whole universe.
Oh, okay. How very strange.
Mm-hmm. And they also, by the way, they're called, which is in the future in chapters, called Shai Hulud, which means demon of the desert.
Shai Hulud. That's why you know about him so much.
Mm-hmm. Which comes from Shaitan, devil, Satan.
Okay.
And Hulud must be desert.
Okay.
Demon.
After they talk about the sandworms and the planet, most of the planet is uninhabitable because of worms and storms. I want to know more about these storms. Besides the fact that I know they're sandstorms. Yui,
They rip that. You'll find out later, but they rip flesh from bones.
Yes.
It's like a hurricane in the desert with just sand scouring it, destroying everything. Yet there are freemen out there living in it.
Which seems pretty spectacular.
Yeah, they kind of compare freemen keep on comparing freemen to the Salusa Sanguidus.
Right, that doesn't come up until later, though.
Yeah, shoulders. So they're kind of building up a conflict between the two.
Right. Yui gives Paul a Bible on filament paper that apparently is too fragile for human fingers to actually touch, so you have to... I'm not even sure exactly what this is supposed to look like.
It's supposed to be like a palm of your hand with little pages and some kind of viewer, and it changes pages by touch on the side, I guess. Yeah, I wonder if someone ever drew a picture of it, because I'm not getting a complete image of it myself. And there's some kind of zoom finder in it too.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, because they talk about how small it is, but I've seen pocket Bibles and they can be really small, so I'm not sure why this one is so different.
It's ancient. It's not like a view book, which I'm guessing a view screen.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that's just like a tablet.
Well, they also say, specifically that it's a Catholic Bible. So are we supposed to be...
It's not a Catholic Bible.
Okay.
It's an orange Catholic Bible.
Okay.
Which is like, I think they did mention it earlier. It's like a religion of mishmashed of all the religions that before the machines came.
Okay.
I think when they became free,
this is definitely supposed to be our universe.
It's our universe.
Okay.
50,000 years in the future, something like that.
Okay.
After a long period of being controlled by machines.
Well, that doesn't sound very promising.
Well, that's what happens. At least we weren't exterminated.
Yeah. So, he gives them this Bible and tells them to keep it a secret. And, he tells him, from water does all life begin. And think you of the fact that a deaf person cannot hear, that what deafness do we all possess, What senses do we lack that we cannot see? And we cannot hear the world around us. What is there around us that we cannot? And that passage is stopped by Yui because it wasn't the passage that he wanted Paul to read. It's his dead wife's favorite passage, and he kind of believes that fate is tormenting him at this point.
It's kind of like Paul, with all his super abilities, you think he would be able to see through Yui, but he doesn't.
But, he's a 15-year-old boy, and they kind of tend to be
15-year-old boy
focused on things that are right in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Paul is definitely that kind of person, because we find out that all sorts of things have been happening around him. And he's just been so focused on his studies and what people are telling him to do and become good at that he doesn't really notice some of the things that are going on around him.
Yeah, that kind of a little dubious that they could hide something like that from him. Well, that's in the future.
I don't know, it's a big house.
That's the next chapter.
So he gives him the Bible as recommended reading and tells him to put it away. Paul wants to keep the book. He definitely does, because he's afraid that Yui's going to take it back from him at some point.
Well, after he starts getting angrier or upset.
Right, after he starts getting angrier. And he tells Yui that it's something that he's really going to prize. And he, asks Yui if there's anything that he could possibly do for him. And Yui declines, and he hates himself.
Well, he's getting him killed. He knows that he's going to kill the whole family.
Right. And he hates himself, but he knows the Harkonnens won't hurt his wife anymore. Now, that's so... He says his wife is dead, then he says the Harkonnens can't hurt his wife anymore. So once again, I don't know if this means that he's alive or not. She's alive or not, I'm sorry.
I don't know how Yui could trust anything Harkonnens would do.
Yeah, that's the part that seems really dubious to me. I mean, he seems to believe that they're going to hold up to their end of the bargain, whatever it is.
But I guess maybe he has no choice but to hope they would.
I know, but I'd like to know what they have over his head.
You think they would give him some kind of proof of life or whatnot? I don't know.
Or, at least they would interject into the scene how the Harkonnens are getting to him when they're so far away. Because, you would think that their communication would also be limited, or at least monitored.
Yeah. How would he contact their Harkonnens across, vast distances of space with the Spacing Guild? Is there communications across the worlds without? It looked like that messenger was a physical message, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll find out.
Okay, so we lead into our next chapter, and they talk about Duke Leto Atreides. Leto. See, I can't pronounce anything because my unicorn mouth doesn't like it. And pretty much what it comes down to is, what is a son but the extension of his father, even if his father's spark is eclipsed by his son?
That's by the Princess Irulan.
Yeah, all of the openings are seem to be parts of religious and historical texts that are being quoted.
Like a hagiography.
I am not familiar with that word.
That is when you write something, only good things about people.
Okay.
They're really kissing Paul Muad'Dib's ass in all the intros we've seen so far.
Okay.
Because right now, everything looks pretty bad for Paul, but we know that everything turns up roses, I guess, with these intros. So how did you get out of this one?
For a while. I mean, we don't know. He could have just done good stuff for like a couple years and then got eaten up by a worm and no one ever sees him again.
It's the possibility.
So, Leto comes in and Paul is in awe of his father.
Mm-hmm.
His father's tired of keeping up pretenses and that everything is going well while they're doing the switchover of planets, but he's very, very tired. And while they're actively moving from place to place, he's going to be resting, but he wants Paul to be studying. Paul just wants to know more about Arrakis. And he is really struggling internally whether or not to ask his father about the prophecy. And this comes up a couple times where he's not sure if his father knows. He doesn't know what his opinion is of it, if he does know.
Well, what's more, it's almost like he feels like the Reverend Mother, like, is stopping him from telling his father somehow.
Yeah, it almost kind of feels like the Reverend Mother has just decided that this is the way it's going to be, and she's just abandoned him.
Well, yeah, it looks like, they're so certain of his death.
Yeah, that he just doesn't really have a purpose in their plan anymore.
I also like to point out that Juana is also a member of the Sisterhood.
That's right, she is.
So he married another Bene Gesserit. You think they'd want to know what was happening to her, and that's kind of weird.
Yeah, you would think, but I also wonder how many Bene Gesserits are there.
I don't know either. I think there must be tons if he gets to marry one.
Right, and if they're intermarrying and they've actually got a demigod breeding program, you would assume that they've got enough people to keep their gene pool, wide enough.
Yeah. After this whole thing blows up in their faces, which we assume it does, what is their purpose in life after they spend all this time trying to go for the Kwisatz Haderach? That's an interesting one.
That's a very good question.
Because we're going a little far off field in our speculation.
Okay, so
he talks about the Trome Company too.
Right, that's right where we are. He's talking about how, no matter what you do, if you get onto Arrakis, you get a, did they call it a director's spot?
Something like a directorship or something like that?
Yeah, directorship in the Trome Company.
That must mean money.
Yeah, that's got to mean a lot of money. And their family doesn't have a whole lot of money. And it takes money to buy things like satellite systems that can change the weather and possibly make the land more habitable.
And to buy friends, I assume.
Right. Why the Harkonnens never instituted this on Arrakis while they were there, I don't know. But my guess is that they were living in their, little ivory tower and they could care less what happened to the rest of the planet.
They don't seem to be living on Arrakis right now. So
right.
They must have multiple planets. So I'm guessing you don't get just necessarily just have one planet.
Or are they on a ship?
No, they were definitely, when we saw the evil Harkonnens, and they were on a planet.
Oh, okay.
They're definitely on a planet. They were on Gidi Prime, which is the name of the Harkonnens' homeworld.
Oh, okay. So they've got more than one planet.
Yeah.
And Paul's family only has one planet.
And looks like they're going to give it to the Harkonnens, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, that is kind of weird, but the Emperor is the one that's doing that, so who knows what...
Do they really have a choice?
Yeah, do they really have a choice, and is it part of a bigger plan that nobody knows anything about yet?
If I were the people on that planet, Caladan, I'd be shitting my pants. I wouldn't want the Harkonnens to be ruling with all their...
Yeah, that would make me very nervous.
Yeah, it's like betraying them by abandoning them.
And also, during the whole time this exchange is happening, it's raining outside.
Mm-hmm.
And, that makes me wonder, does the planet, is it always raining? Or is this just something that they're doing to, show the difference of the planets that they're going to? One is rainy and the other one is desert.
I think they're just showing differences. I don't think it's always raining.
Okay. Okay, so Leto. He wants to press the point to Paul that there's a lot more to Chon than melange. And
I think also the Reverend Mother pointed out that Trome really shows you the power balance in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So they're using Trome to show you who's against who, and that they reveal themselves through their actions here. Right?
Right.
Well, tell them. How do they do that? There's the ones that are against them are stockpiling spice, right?
Right.
So their plan is to switch planets and then sabotage the Atreides.
Right.
And then spice production goes down and the value of spice skyrockets. Then they come in and save the day.
Yeah, theoretically, that's what's going to happen. But Paul's father wants to make sure that that's not going to happen. And he talks about how nothing escapes the Chom transports. And now that they have a little bit of power in it, I don't know. See, here's the thing. Are the Harkonnens giving up their directorship in the Chom Company by giving up Arrakis?
I don't think so. Who knows? They must have some kind of power in it because they still got spice stocks at least.
Yeah, but just having stock in something, does that mean that they have anything to do with it internally or not? We probably won't ever figure that out.
I don't think they'll go into that detail.
Okay. But nothing escapes the Chom transports. Everything that moves in the universe has to move through Chom.
It's kind of like a giant corporation that's like a socialist thing controlled by government.
Are they controlled by government? Because it seems to me like they're just kind of a thing that the government has a piece of just because it's too dangerous not to.
Chom seems to be everything. Like it's the thing that it's one giant company that controls the sale of everything, at least anything that goes through space.
Right. I mean, they're definitely a monopoly.
So all interplanetary commerce goes through Chom, is my understanding. So it's like a weird communist thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's just looking at shipping companies. Now, I don't know how shipping companies work, but I know that there are ones that have...
I think they're more than a shipping company.
Are they more than a shipping company?
Well, I mean, the guild does the shipping. They don't own, the guild does the shipping. They control the prices and who gets what, I'm guessing.
Right.
I guess there are big Chom stores.
And that's the thing. What I'm bringing up is now is Paul's family going to be able to control what the Harkonnens get because they're controlling part of the shipping company.
You mean Chom? I think it's, well, someone said that, remember it was the Emperor controls 60% of Chom, directly or indirectly?
Mm-hmm.
So I assume the Atreides have just a tiny percentage.
Right, and they also talk about everything that Chom does all pale before melange.
Okay, but did you really get to the part where they were able to figure out who's against them and the fact that the big surprise is guess who's against them? The Emperor?
We haven't gotten there yet.
Gotta get into that part.
Okay, we can get into that part. Because the next thing I was going to say is the Harkonnens have a stockpile. They want the Atreides to fail. But the thing is that Paul's father definitely knows this is a trap. And, Paul's father wants Paul to know that he has to learn how to work, political intrigues. And Paul kind of seems blindsided and he doesn't understand subtlety. He doesn't really understand why people don't say what they mean and why people are, going behind each other's backs. And he knows the Harkonnens are going to try and sabotage his family. So Paul just doesn't understand why his father doesn't go to the Emperor.
Well, because the Emperor's against them.
Right. But, Paul doesn't understand how something like that could possibly happen.
I'm not sure about that. I think he might understand that.
I mean, I think he would understand it if his father did something that was deliberately against the Emperor, as a countermeasure, but I don't think Paul understands, if the Emperor wants the planet, why can't he just take it for himself?
There seems to be a balance between the houses and the Landsraad, which is some kind of a Congress, and the Emperor. So they can't do everything. So he can't. Obviously, if he just wanted to kill the Atreides, he could just send his Sardaukar down there.
Right.
But then there's a compact. They keep on mentioning this compact. So there must be you can't directly just come in and wipe out everybody.
Right.
Plus, they keep on talking about atomics, so maybe they'd fight back with atomics if they did something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, the Emperor's home planet gets nuked by atomics. Who knows? We don't know exactly what this compact is, but it must be something so that he can only be sneaky.
Right.
That's why the whole point of this wacky conspiracy theory is they're being sneaky.
Well, also the thing is that they try not, it seems to me that they try not to fight with atomics and big things like that. What the Emperor does have are soldier fanatics. And Seleucus Secundus is mentioned again.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the Emperor's prison planet, and apparently
the dreaded Sardaukar.
Right, the Sardaukar supposedly come from there because what happens is there are people on the planet that are very young, and the Emperor takes young people with potential and he trains them up very well, and they become the Sardaukar. And Paul's father isn't necessarily buying into that.
Think there's something else going on there?
Yeah, he thinks there's something else going on.
So, what do you think Duke Leto's big plan is to stop not only the Harkonnens, but also the Emperor?
Probably become a huge success, but I don't know how he's going to do that.
Well, they're already anticipating Sardaukar landing on the planet.
They do. But what they're thinking about is whether or not they can get the Fremen to go up against the Sardaukar.
Exactly. So that's what I think they're trying to do, but I don't think they're going to have time.
I don't think so either. But it all depends, because what they're talking about is that Duncan Idaho has gone ahead of them, and he's already on Arrakis, and he's trying to parley with the Fremen. The big question is not whether or not the Fremen is going to allow himself with the House of Atreides. I think the bigger question is whether or not the Fremen are going to sit by and watch while the Sardaukar overrun their planet, because it seems like, they've been put out enough. This could just be the thing that makes them snap.
Exactly. We don't know how badly they were affected. For all we know, they weren't affected at all since they're out there in the middle of the world. They're out there in the desert that no one ever goes.
But, I mean, why would you decide to settle out there out in the middle of a place that's so dangerous unless at some point you or your ancestors was forced to live out there?
Yeah. Have we gotten to Paul as a Mentat yet?
No, we haven't gotten Paul as a Mentat yet. We're actually getting right there. Because right after I wrote down that Duncan Idaho is left, we get to the point that this is Paul's first time off planet. And when they're talking about, Paul being off planet and the fact that it's raining here and it's going to be, desert there, and they're showing just the contrast between the two. His father starts talking about, Paul being secretly trained to be a Mentat. And Paul goes over, the qualifications for someone to be trained as a Mentat since birth. And in his mind, suddenly everything just seems to fall into place. And he realizes that he has been trained to be a Mentat, and he has reached the point in his training where he can continue on, or he can choose to just scrap the entire idea. But the idea of a Mentat Duke is a very powerful thing.
Well, it's like a computer calculating everything.
Right.
But my question is, if he's been supposed to be so self-aware all this time, how is he not aware he's being trained as a Mentat?
Sometimes smart people are really dense.
I guess if they couldn't hide it from the Mentats, then there would be no Mentats. Right?
Or the fact that, Paul has never known any other life. He doesn't understand how extraordinary the life around him is. I mean, they even say that he's never had friends his own age, so he's only ever known this type of training, and he's been kept away from everyone else.
Yeah, that's just a weird thing. So how do you grade the chapter? The chapters, which were combined too.
I have a couple questions.
Like what?
His father was happy that he decided to continue his training, but he knew that being a Mentat has terrible purpose. I want to know a little bit more about the Mentats and terrible purpose, and one thing that I've noticed...
I think the terrible purpose is a reference to him, Paul becoming a Kwisatz Haderach. Haderach. I think Paul keeps saying that he feels filled with a terrible purpose, which is truly terrible.
Okay, but my big question is that so far we've only seen a couple mentats and, reference. Are mentats always men?
I don't. No, to be honest, I don't know. I bet there are female mentats, but I've never seen one that I can recall. I bet in the prequels there probably are female mentats.
I'm just wondering if, like, the men are mentats and the women are the Bene Gesserits.
Possibly. Certainly there are no male Bene Gesserits per se. Not, at least not Reverend Mothers.
Well, yeah, definitely not. Because I kind of thought that was the big thing between, with him becoming Muad'Dib.
Yes. The only male Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother.
Right.
So are you excited?
I want to know more. It was a little bit slow with me because as I've said, I don't like all of the, shock troop vocabulary, as it were, to get the story, hooked into your brain. It's taken a little bit longer than that, but I am looking forward to reading more. This chapter, I know in previous chapters, I think I've always given them 7. I'll probably give this one like an 8.5.
We're getting there, but it's no Harry Potter for you though.
I was actually just realizing the other day that it has been years since I've read Harry Potter. So it might be another time for a reread. We'll see how I see it through
Are there any unicorns in Harry Potter?
More grown-up unicorn eyes.
There are unicorn in Harry Potter?
There are unicorns in Harry Potter. Terrible things happen to them.
Oh, they get eaten, right?
It is an injustice to the unicorn population.
Wait a minute. Are they saying that I can use you for a purpose?
No!
I gotta get into this book. I gotta read it.
No.
Okay, so what do you think's gonna happen? Given all you know, what do you think the next chapter is gonna happen?
I think that they're going to land on the planet. I have a feeling that anybody named Duncan Idaho probably isn't going to die straight away. Because otherwise I would say that they would find his bloodied corpse dead and mangled. Because that's cheerful. But I don't think his talks with the Fremen will have gone well. But I think that he will have, been allowed to leave and come back. Beyond that, I really don't know. I mean, how long is it going to take for the Sardaukar to show up? Is the guild still going to be there? I mean, they were saying that, when they were moving, the Harkonnen ships could be right alongside theirs. And they would still feel safe because the guild would be protecting him. And that's very nice, but what happens if the Harkonnen ships are, tooting alongside them, and then the Atreides get dropped off on the planet? Well, the guild's no longer there, but the Harkonnens are literally straight there.
What I want to know is how is the guild going to allow them to start attacking Dune, which is the only source of spice? Do you think they'd want something... they're going along with a plan that'll increase the cost of spice, which is the last thing they want.
Yeah, but who knows? They might have their own, stockpile of spice.
I guess so. We'll find out. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Ready for chapter 7?
Ready for chapter 7.
Want to outro us?
Alrighty. And here we go.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.